Thank you, Andrew. Thanks everyone for coming out on this hot evening. And yeah, I'm just got a bit of a presentation that I was going to run through about what I've been up to in using AI for meat inspection. I've been working at Assure Quality for about 3 years now. I started out in the role of innovation lead across the whole portfolio of everything that Assure Quality does. And this was one of, I think, 14 different projects in the portfolio that I was working on. And yeah, thought it had legs and tried to convince the executive team that this project should have someone working on it full time, which eventually they agreed to, and then they wanted me to do it. I turned it down twice before I finally ended up committing to this one project full time. So it's a pretty exciting project, and yeah, I'll just run you through what I've been up to and how I've been going about it, and yeah, I'd like to leave some time at the end for questions or a discussion. So yeah, are there any vegetarians in the audience? I know we've got one. Yeah, there are. Yeah, presentation does contain images of meat, but there's nothing too gnarly. There's no diseases or defects in the slides. So yeah, here's an executive summary of what I've been up to. So at Assure Quality, we've got what we think is the world's first AI for carcass inspection on beef and on sheep species, ovine. And we're looking for diseases and defects with AI. I'll show you a video shortly of it working. So we've proven the concept. We've invested minimally so far just to test that it's going to work before we go too far into spending money on it. But I guess the bit I'm going to sort of focus on talking about is validating the value propositions with customers. So the problem that it solves and who wants to pay for it. The next bit that we're working on is building a scalable minimum viable product offering by June of 2026, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. But yeah, the fourth bullet point there, I guess the key learning, the last 3 years I've been working on this project is AI is like the tech's cool and exciting and probably relatively the easy part, but all that stuff that wraps around the adoption of the AI, the regulatory compliance, the people is where I've been spending most of my focus and time and effort. And I think the key learning over the last few years is all the stuff that wraps around the tech is where Assure Quality can bring value where maybe a tech company couldn't just walk in and make the tech work. So I did put a few disclaimers there. I don't have a user interface yet. I'm at a UX meetup. So if anyone wants to leave now, I won't be offended. But what I do have is a validated problem to solve before I've started building a solution. So our UI design is underway actually this week, today. Our UI designer's been at a meat plant talking to users to get their empathy to build the solution. So yeah, interested at the end to hear if anyone's got any ideas, things I haven't thought of yet. And yeah, we haven't worked this out yet. Each sprint, every 2 weeks, we just prioritize the next riskiest assumption to test and design tests to just test our way through assumptions. So we're still doing that. There's still some pretty big assumptions to test. And who knows, maybe we still don't end up going ahead with this thing yet, which I think would be a success, rather than building something that no one wants. I've already said my vegetarian warning.
Matt,
yes.
Explain the difference between what's the relationship between Assure Quality and the meatworks themselves?
Oh yeah.
Why is this a problem for you to solve and not for them to solve?
Good question. So maybe in this next slide might give a bit of context, and I'll make sure I answer that. So Assure Quality does all kinds of food assurances. We're a state-owned enterprise, so owned by the government, but expected to return a profit to our one shareholder, who is the government, but we compete for work commercially and do all kinds of stuff, mostly divided sort of into even thirds of testing. We have a lot of labs that test a lot of food products, a lot of milk powder, and audits of food processing facilities and the whole supply chain. We audit right through from animal genetics through to animal feeds to everything that needs auditing along the food supply chain. And yeah, about a third of the work's meat inspections. So we're appointed by the New Zealand government, negotiates trade with other countries for meat, and we're appointed by the government to inspect all of the red meat in New Zealand. So we've got, it's big, 1,800 people, 70 offices, 150 years old, big old. And in terms of meat inspection, every meat plant in New Zealand has an assure quality meat inspector standing on the end of the chain looking at every carcass with their eyeballs. Pretty much exactly the same as this gentleman here. In Christchurch 100 years ago.
Is the performance of the meat inspectors in terms of their accuracy your sort of gold standard for how well your machine learning does?
Yeah, so that's the current system has to be at least 98% effective, and we have systems and processes in place currently to check that we're getting that. So absolutely, before anyone's going to throw the keys to the robots, we need to be able to conclusively prove with validated third-party scientific data that what we're doing is at least as good as the current system.
How well are human beings doing?
So the answer to that question is I don't know yet, because to be able to open up the space to be able to run this project has been a lot of heavily unionised workforce, and we told the unions initially that we weren't going to be comparing or looking at the performance of the current human inspectors. We were looking at the performance of the AI, but we are now at a point where our next riskiest assumption is to validate how do we know that a meat inspector looking at a photo of meat on a computer screen is as good as a meat inspector standing on a chain in a meat processing plant looking with their eyeballs. And then another thing we want to test is the variation between meat inspectors looking at the same image, because the AI is only ever going to be as good as the training we give it. So we are about to have those conversations with our unions coming up next to be able to progress with that next stage of the work that we need to do. So yeah, a lot of people don't realise that New Zealand exports like 99 point something % of the meat we produce. So it's New Zealand's second biggest export, and everything that gets exported needs to be inspected. So yeah, this was the first prototype that I put in a plant. So first assumption to test was, can we put a camera in a meat plant? There was a lot that we didn't know about that. So that's a $139 home security camera from off the shelf at PB Tech. Single cable that's way too long, power over Ethernet, and an off-the-shelf stainless steel cabinet that's way too big. Because I thought we were going to need to put all kinds of other stuff in there that we didn't end up needing. So yes, we can. We can put a camera in a meat plant. Can we get images out to the cloud? Can we use those images for training AI? So just working our way through those things has been what we're up to. Objectives, yeah, I'll talk about those more. We've got the camera down. We're using just a dome security camera now, and actually the last ones that we've been putting in over the last couple of weeks are food grade stainless steel version of that. So it's nice and small. Most meat plants in New Zealand are 100 years old and have been added onto by the local engineering firm in the small rural town. They're all different. They weren't designed for the throughput that they're putting through now, so they're tight for space. It's a hostile environment to be putting tech. It's hot on the slaughter side of the meat plant. It's humid. They hose everything down and a lot of cleaning. Pretty sure the cleaners like using the cameras for target practice. So we've had some challenges with that. But yeah, we've gone from a place where I was working on this project with, I guess, 1/14 of my my time to working on it full time to currently got eight others working on this full time now. So scaling up the resource has been something I've managed to get happening over the last year, making the hardware smaller, easier. We've rolled out, we did it at one plant, and then we thought, well, we want to check that it works at other plants in case someone shows up wearing orange earmuffs and it breaks the AI. So we thought if we can get to 3 sites each for 2 species. So we started out on cows, because cows, they split the carcass in half. So it's easier to see with a camera. But with sheep, New Zealand does a lot more sheep than cows, a lot more. But the carcass is left whole. So seeing inside the cavity of the carcass is an engineering problem that can be solved, but is probably going to be an expensive problem to solve just because of the variation. Every meat plant's different, every chain height's different, different speeds, different sized animals. Yeah, it's an expensive problem to solve. So we're trying to see if we can do it with a camera, which is looking promising. Lots of what, sorry?
Distractors.
Yeah. So what else have I got on my slide here? Yeah, big part of what we've been doing is not just the AI model. So you can't show up to a meat plant with an AI model on a USB stick. There's the whole end-to-end service that we've designed around that. And yeah, registered a patent. I didn't know you could.
Wow.
I didn't know you could patent an off-the-shelf home security camera and 6 clicks of Amazon Web Services AI. But it's not the tech that you patent; it's the application to solving a real world problem that you patent. So and yeah, we're underway to launch a commercial product offering 30th of June 2026. I've got a thing there. I think I've already said it. Tech's the easy part, but it's about integrating it into the environment that's been the hard work.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I keep asking questions. What have been the challenges, like taking tech into this environment?
Yeah, adoption of the tech has definitely been the challenge. So opening up the space to be able to innovate in the first place. This is New Zealand's second most heavily regulated industry, red meat, after aviation. So getting permission to do this in the first place took a lot of workshops and sausage rolls. I tried out using techniques from futures thinking. It was my first time. I just did a course and gave it a crack. It worked really well, as it turned out. It got published in the Journal of Future Studies, and then just a couple of weeks ago it won the best article of last year, and has worked. When I showed the AI meat inspection to the meat inspectors, they stood up and clapped, and that was not how I imagined that was going to go 3 years earlier. So bringing people on the journey with us, and international trading partners, like we've been having conversations with different getting them ready for what's coming. Yeah, that's been the challenge, I guess. Doing the work. Feels like it's taken 3 years to do about a month's worth of work, but got some momentum going now. Yeah, and I guess the way I've been going about this is a bit different for the way they usually do things in this industry. This picture here, I'll just tell you what you're looking at. It's the inside of a cow's rib cage. And I guess the picture's important because that was the first time we realised we could use our own workforce of 650 meat inspectors to label the images to train the AI ourselves. So I started out 3 years ago looking at what tech solutions were available internationally, checked out a couple of them. But yeah, I guess our key learning here was actually we can do the tech in-house and leverage that workforce of meat inspectors as our competitive advantage. So this is our short quality meat inspector putting the first label on the first image. So she's picked bovine pleurisy here and drawn that on. So we did 6,000 of those for our first crack at training the model, just to check that it was going to work. So yeah, that collaborative piece has been a big part of the work that I've been doing. Iterative development, so the way that I'm going about just putting the wrong camera in the wrong place and then changing it is different to how they usually do things. Everyone's trying to come up with the perfect solution and then getting it wrong anyway. And I really feel like being able to do something and show it to people gets more buy-in to then do something more and get more buy-in and show people and get more buy-in and sort of get that that flywheel effect going for momentum. What else? Opening up the space to innovate, I already talked about. Getting that first prototype in, I talked about. This picture here is what the meat inspector drew on the image, and this is what the AI found when we showed the same image. So AI is pretty good at finding anomalies in images, and the results look pretty promising. We did a little bit of validation, so again, we didn't realise, and I don't think they realised either, but we've got people who work at Assure Quality that we could use for doing the validation. So our epidemiologists designed the science. We've got data scientists who hadn't done this before, but we were able to do the validation of how good the AI was internally. Eventually we'll get that done once we're confident enough by international third-party science to validate that the AI is as good as the current system. Yeah, I think I've talked about that other stuff that we're doing.
Do you precisely calculate the two areas in the same area, surface area?
We've just compared the results of absence or presence of the correct disease in a confusion matrix of when the AI gets it right and wrong. So the first training was better than we were expecting, but it was still only about 80% accurate, but it will get better the more time and money we spend training it.
When you say AI, are we talking about a deep learning computer vision model?
Yep. Yes. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Here it comes. So this was our proof of concept on beef. There's your beef carcass with it's just the raw footage. There's where we've turned the AI on, so we're using it can detect the interior or exterior of the beef. It can tell beef or sheep, and we're reading the paper tag as well for correlation with ground truth data. And that's it, finding disease peritonitis, which is inflammation of the stomach lining, with about sort of 80% accuracy. We can remove the backgrounds, which is what people like to see for privacy.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Segmentation and masking.
Yeah. So that didn't take that long to do ourselves.
Is this real time? Or is
It can be. So this is applied to, so we've got footage, we've had cameras rolling in plants for 3 seasons, historical footage, and then we've also got the actual data of what our meat inspector found. So we know where to look and what we're looking for. And I was really hoping to be able to show you the same thing on ovine, but next week. So we're just training now. We've got meat inspectors drawing the labels on ovine carcasses. So we can see more of the inside of the carcass than I was expecting to be able to. This was just the first place we threw the camera up. There was already a pole there that used to have a Perspex screen on it from COVID. So we just put the camera on the end of the pole over the shoulder of the meat inspector. I'm pretty sure I'm feeling pretty hopeful that with correct camera placement and maybe a bit of different lighting, we'll be able to see what we need to without building an expensive robot.
Is that the inspector opening it up?
Yeah, so they're masked out. So we're using our current inspector to open up to be able to see inside there. So yeah, there's a few different ways you could get a camera or see inside. But
Easier if the inspector has a POV cam.
yeah, so that I'd love for us to get to there. When we've tried that, it's too much going on with moving the camera. We're starting with a stationary camera, but yeah, that would be cool. Google Glasses or Microsoft HoloLens. The tech will get there, eh? Like it's not that far away.
So does the resolution matter when you use store-bought camera? When you did it?
So we started with the cheap camera. When I went to install it, I picked the spot where I wanted to put it, but then when the engineers installed it, they couldn't put it where I wanted it. So it had to go somewhere much closer. So we needed to get a camera with a wider field of view to get the full carcass. And then that camera was just cheap and had all kinds of artifacts and didn't withstand cleaning. And so we've iterated through different cameras, and the ones we've got now seem pretty good. 4K, and this is with the old cameras. What I was just showing you, the new cameras have just gone in.
And you're only using visible light?
So each inspection stand has to have 1,000 or 10,000 lux. It's regulated what the lighting has to be. So there is good lighting already there, but getting inside the cavity, we might need night vision.
But you
or
haven't looked at other wavelengths and infrared and UV?
Not yet. At the moment, we're just using visible cameras, but absolutely there's an opportunity to feed in hyperspectral or infrared or even like imaging, like X-rays or so that's where we're heading, but it's early days. It may seem obvious to people who work in a startup that we're taking a lean startup approach to this, but that's quite a different way of working in both the meat sector and a big state-owned enterprise, which is blowing some people's minds a little bit. I guess we've learned how to innovate within regulatory frameworks. So our regulators have told us, I guess a year ago, I thought we needed their permission to do this, but we've reached a point now where they've told us so long as you've still got a human official assessor making the final decision on each carcass, you're free to go ahead and develop technology that assists the human. So the approach we've taken is the human still makes the final decision. The tech gives them information which they can use to help them make a better decision. I guess until we can build enough data to show that the tech is able to perform at least as effectively as the current system. Yeah, putting a camera in a meat plant's hard, mostly because meat plants don't like random people showing up and doing stuff. They like to control what happens, and there's always some other priority to something breaking that the engineering team need to be working on. So we're sort of reliant on engineering teams at meat plants to do the work for us.
So in the next phase, will you be looking at putting screens in there as well?
Yeah, that's my next slide.
Oh.
Yeah, yes. Well, that's the user interface that we're designing. Yeah. I can probably go there now. I think I've already said all that other stuff anyway.
What's your comment about disease?
This one here? So I guess my key learning was I went and talked to 22 customers, and I didn't say to them, hey, what do you think about AI? I asked them just classic, what are your jobs to be done and your pain points, and learned through that the thing that we've been standing there and looking for the last 150 years is not their biggest pain point. So mainly because the herd's been bred to be pretty good. Diseases are on a pathway to eradication. Most of the diseases we find, it's always controversial when I say this, but like most of them won't kill you if you eat them, whereas that's the stuff you can't see that we should be worried about. And yeah, when we find disease, there's not really anything they can do about it. Like it's there, like they can't fix it. Whereas I found 3 ways that what we're doing could add more value than just automating the thing we've been doing for the last 150 years. Value proposition number 1, the thing that does keep meat plant managers awake at night is fecal contamination, because that isn't there to begin with. It's something that their processing's putting on there, and it gets containers of product rejected at borders. So if you're exporting to the United States, they have a 0 fecal tolerance policy. If they find any fecal, you get blacklisted, and that's a massive risk for a plant manager. So we thought we don't just have to put the camera at the end of the chain where the inspector's been standing for the last 150 years. The camera's pretty cheap. We can throw cameras all the way along the chain. particularly at the points where fecal goes on is when they pull the hides off and when they take the guts out. That's when the fecal gets on the carcass. We can show them, hey, here's where it is, but also this is the bit they liked was you need to go and have a look what's going on here, because the last 3 carcasses that came out of zone B on your chain have all had fecal on the hind leg. So maybe there's an operator that's got a bit of a dirt on the back of their glove where they can't see, or a dirty knife, or I don't know, something wrong with the machinery. So they can actually do something about it and fix it.
Things like nicking the valve.
Could be a process, could be like the hide puller sometimes flicks just mud and stuff over the carcass. But they like the idea of actually being able to go and fix the problem and do something about it, which they can't do with disease.
Is that detection of the fecal matter done through traditional testing and then you reverse engineer to find out where it was happening, or is that done through the AI?
Well, we think we can use cameras to do it, but we haven't tested it yet. So we haven't tested this assumption. We don't know that a camera can find it. It might be a different light spectrum. It might be different sensing technology. Yeah. So it's a problem we're solving, but because there's so many unknowns, we decided not to pick that one to do first.
Is it something that the inspectors are looking for?
So they do, but it's the meat company. Like our inspectors are primarily there to look for pathology, diseases. Processing defects is really the responsibility of the meat company, because it's their processing that's doing that.
Is it something that they can see easily?
Takes a trained eye, because there's all kinds of other stuff that's not fecal. Like sometimes it's dried grease from the top of the chain that falls on as a powder, or it's hard to tell what it is. It does take a trained eye. That was another thing we learned. We thought we could use a team of computer science students from University of Canterbury to label our disease and defects for us, but you need a trained meat inspector to find this stuff. It's harder to pick up than you think. This is the one that we're moving ahead with building now. So we're putting, so this is a cutting guide for detained trimmers. So we found out through talking to customers that once our meat inspector sees a disease or defect, they put a ticket on, it gets sent off the main chain to a detain area. And we learned that quite often at a meat company, a new person starts out on the detain area because the chain's moving much slower. They don't necessarily know what they're looking for. They haven't had the same training as a meat inspector. It takes them a while to find what they're looking for. And we think when they're removing it, they're cutting out way more than they need to. So this is a big screen TV that goes on the detain, and it tells the detain trimmer, hey, here's what you're looking for, here's where it is, and here's where you need to cut to remove it in the most efficient way possible. So we think they're cutting out the whole rib cage when maybe they only need to take out a couple of ribs. And French racks of lamb are US $58 a kilo at the moment. That's money that we can reduce the yield loss and falls straight to the bottom line for a meat processor and back to the farmer. So the farmer gets paid more if there's more weight on the carcass. So staff uses the screen to follow the instructions, and then this bit here at the end, it does a reassessment and says, yep, good job, that's what we were expecting you to do. You get a 92% efficiency score, which we're thinking meat companies can use to incentivize their trimmers to trim more efficiently. At the moment, they get incentivized based on tally throughput. So they're trying to go fast, not trying to conserve the most amount of meat. So yeah, that's what we're building. And I guess the end state that we're heading towards, end of the product roadmap, this one is assisted inspection using technology. So again, there's cameras all the way along the chain instead of just at the end. It picks stuff up as it's happening. And I guess the point we think we can get to, once we start collecting enough data and have enough assurance in the performance, maybe we can get to a point where the green light, the carcass just carries on down the chain, and then red light, something wrong with this one, that gets sent to the detain, and maybe the inspector only needs to be standing on the detain looking at the not normal carcasses. But it might take us a little while to get there. So yeah, just to finish up, our current state. So we've got our working proof of concept, and we've just started training to detect diseases and defects on ovine, which is the real prize for New Zealand in terms of return on investment. Is much better on the numbers of ovine that we do. Looks promising. On track for a scalable minimum viable product by 30th of June. And yeah, it's project at the stage now where it's looking for cash funding, so looking for partnerships for investment. We're on 6 chains now, so that one there has just been installed. It's not quite in the right spot yet, but 3 for beef and 3 for lamb. This is the new camera compared to the old cameras. Yeah, big difference, eh? And last slide, next steps. We're doing a user interface empathy actually today. We had our service designer at meat plant talking to detain trimmers to sort of understand their process and understand what the user interface needs to look like and where it goes and how it works and what information it needs to display for them. And yeah, I guess that second bullet point there, it's about more than just scaling the tech. It's about scaling trust. And that whole sort of compliance and operational piece is something we've learned that Assure Quality is able to add value in that space. And yeah, looking at investment opportunities both in New Zealand and internationally, so that we can test that what we're doing scales beyond just New Zealand in the early or mid next year. So yeah, that's what I've been up to, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts or questions or ideas.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
You mentioned about the detain area, the mining cut out a lot less. Were there any other big process changes that you uncovered as you were sort of going through all this?
I have identified, every time I do one of these presentations, someone comes up to me and says, hey, could your AI do this? I was like, well, yeah, that's not what we're doing, but yeah, there are plenty of opportunities. The meat industries, for the most part, there's a lot of opportunities to innovate and use technology. But yeah, it's about, I guess, convincing people that that's what they should do. I think the tech's capable of doing it. Yeah, working out those value propositions and justifying the return on investment. So we think that detain trimming product, we're validating the numbers at the moment, but based on what we've done so far, we think it'll save $500,000 a year per chain and reduced yield loss. So stuff they're cutting off and throwing away at the moment that we think they don't need to.
Are inspectors or the unions concerned about their jobs?
I think it's pretty natural when you start talking about AI, and a lot of meat plants are in sort of small rural towns where being a meat inspector at the meat plant is a lifestyle. But I think with that futures thinking exercise I did 3 years ago, I got 150 meat inspectors to explore what are some things that are going on now that might have an impact on our jobs. Okay, let's explore what might that mean. Okay, so in that case, what do we need to be doing now to make sure we get the future we want and avoid the future we don't want? And they gave me a laundry list, and they identified they wanted Assure Quality to lead the world in automated inspection. So when each year I show them the progress, they give me a list of what they want to see next year at my next update, and they've basically that I'm doing what they're telling me to do, and giving me the mandate to do that. So not all meat inspectors. There's obviously your curve of early adopters and people who just aren't into it. I think you'll find that anywhere, and that's okay. But in general, yeah, we've got meat inspectors helping us label images because I guess they're excited in the opportunities that this could lead to.
Are you building on top of existing computer vision models, or have you built your own architecture?
We've trained our own models. Yeah.
So you're training your own models, but are you using like a base neural architecture?
It's yeah. So the segmentation.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was Yolo.
Yeah.
How many images you use to train the master one to train?
The first one was 6,000. Yeah. But we're aiming for 10,000 this time for our initial model, which then can continue to learn. And yeah, the fact that we've got access to all of that footage with the corresponding ground truth data, like we've got heaps of data for training.
That's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about needing to be the final decision with someone laying their eyes on it and the rest.
For the current regulations, yeah.
For the current regulations. So you've got all this AI information coming through on screen. Does that mean that this final set of eyes is to look at both the carcass
Yeah.
and the on screen?
Good question. So that's where we're up to now. Is well, hang on a minute. And in most lamb chains operate at around 10 a minute. So you get about 6 seconds to look at a carcass as it's whizzing by. Some of them run faster than that, up to 14. So a meat inspector's already got a lot of stuff, and they're not just looking at the carcass. There's a tray of the offal moving with the carcass that someone else will be looking at, but they're signing off on the whole animal in 6 seconds. So yeah, what if the screen on detain the AI finds something that the inspector didn't? Does the inspector get a chance to approve what the AI finds or deselect erroneous stuff that it didn't find? We're not up to that yet, but that's some of the complexities of what's coming next.
Yeah, and you've got a real opportunity for information overload.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the moment, we've opened up the space to be able to innovate by assuring regulators that what we're doing doesn't affect the current inspection process. So we've been saying up till this point, we won't give any feedback from the AI that'll influence the decision of the inspector. It's still the human making we don't want to jeopardise New Zealand's second biggest export. New Zealand has a really good reputation for food safety. We take that for granted here, but internationally, a lot of countries look to New Zealand as, I guess, we're striving to be the best. And I feel like internationally, a lot of countries are looking to us to take a lead in this space, because I think there is already an element of trust with us and how we do that. So yeah, tricky one to negotiate, making sure that we keep the same high standards, but get the tech working. So that's why we've gone to the detain area. This tool's not for the meat inspector. This tool's for the detain trimmer.
Is the path clear to move towards taking human out of the loop?
I think it'll be a long time before people feel comfortable. Like, I've got mates who are pilots, and planes have been able to fly themselves for ages. Like, we still pay 2 humans to sit there and play Sudoku on their iPads for that comfort factor. I don't think we'll be throwing the keys completely to the robots for some time, but there might be an opportunity where maybe one inspector could be inspecting more than one chain with assisted by tech.
So the value is in asking the question, what does it add to the human that's doing the job?
Yep, absolutely. And the thing a customer said to me, which really resonated, was, if what you're doing is not adding value to my product or taking cost out, then don't bother doing it, because all you're doing is adding more complexity and cost to a system that's working fine. Thank you very much. So that was where we started looking at, well, where are the ways we can add value? So reducing chain stoppages. Chain stoppages are expensive when you got a lot of 40 people on a chain standing around. Adds up to quite expensive per minute, and yeah, we went to yield as a way that we could use what we're doing to add value more quickly.
So you're developing in sprints, you're lean. How
Yeah.
did you get to the June 2026 date?
Oh, that's the end of the financial year.
Yeah.
That's where my funding goes into, and then I've got to get new funding. But there might
be a few sprints towards the end.
yeah.
Yeah, what computer with what kind of GPU do you use, and how long took you to train the 8,000 feature?
Yeah, that's not me doing that. So I'll do my best. Once we've got the model trained, we want to put it locally on an edge server with a GPU, like a Jetson or something, because most meat plants don't have good internet. They're in rural places, and it's got to work all the time. If it doesn't work once, it'll get thrown on the shelf, and that'll be the end of it. So
are you using Jetsons at the moment? Or
not yet. So we have edge servers at the sites, but the model at the moment isn't running on the edge until we've done a bit more training. But that's the intention.
So the model's just running on video data at the moment?
So far, just proving the concept. Yeah.
Any concern about the inspectors getting overly reliant on it?
Yeah, someone did bring that up. Right, so part of my empathy interviews was with, I think I interviewed 7 or 8 meat inspectors, and I was asking about, in a meat plant, being a meat inspector has a lot of mana attached to it, and in a rural community, a meat inspector is a trustworthy person who's probably done a lot of study to do what they do. And I was saying, like, does the meat inspector who's using a tech product, do they have more mana because they're using tech to make them more awesome, or do they have less mana because? And I guess I got a range of answers, but there definitely was a view from some that, well, I've spent 20 years learning how to do this. If someone else comes along and they can do the job without that 20 years of training, like in their view, that person has less mana because they're overly reliant on using the tech to do the job.
Or are you saying if the AI gets it wrong, you just tick it because you're like, it's probably right, tick, the way you're looking
There's-
for
We stop being trained.
Yeah.
Person. You just rely on it.
There is that danger, right? Yeah. So yeah, using it as a tool, but I think it should be, it's the inspector checking the performance of the AI rather than the AI checking the performance of the inspector is the way we want to try and frame that. Yeah.
We often talk about getting AI to do the things that you don't want to do so you can focus on the things that you do want to do. Did the meat inspectors kind of talk to what they would prefer to be spending their time on?
They don't. They don't like looking for fecal.
Right.
They want to look for disease. So if we can use the tech to help identify fecal, then they're pretty happy with that because.
You finish your answer.
Oh, that was the end.
Is fecal really tricky compared to disease? Like, is there lots of
Yeah.
things that could be fecal that aren't?
Yeah, and I think as well there's when a meat inspector flags it up, there can be tension with the meat company who are trying to keep production going, and finding it slows things down, and an objective tool would help a meat inspector in resolving some of that tension that's there currently.
Offloads
Yeah.
the responsibility for that tension.
Well, that's what the tech said. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so fecal is basically any outside contaminant.
No, it specifically comes out of it's either ingesta that comes up or fecal content from the guts, or sometimes from like dirt on the hide. But there are other contaminants. There's wool, grass seeds, dirt, mud, dried rail dust. what else? Bits of, I don't know, processing equipment, the bands from the rubber gloves and other contaminants do end up there as well.
So your goal is to sort of highlight all that?
We hope so. That's what we're labelling at the moment. And we think the numbers for this project still stack up, just finding stuff on the outside of the carcass, even if we can't see on the inside. I think just, contamination, wounds and bruises, arthritis, so like swollen joints, things that the camera can see on the outside of the ovine carcass without the thing we see the most of in New Zealand is with ovine is pleurisy, which is swollen lining of the lungs. So being able to see inside that's our biggest disease that we do find. Yeah.
Are there any thoughts about capturing images of the live animal?
Yeah, now you're talking. And then maybe we don't even need to look at it after it's dead.
No, just continue in the line, right?
And like with dairy cows, like something like 65% of them are already wearing tech. There's all this data about them while they're alive that they're not joining up with it. Like if we're looking at the moment at every carcass as if we've never seen it before, whereas we might be already sending our auditors out onto farms or collecting data that's there about the animal. So, yeah, absolutely.
If you're like tagging the carcasses and that tag lines up with the data from the field, then you can start doing machine learning to surface features that might identify things before you get to the limit.
And then when you're focusing your inspectors on the higher value work, like that informs what it is they are looking for when they get it based on that. Yeah, so ante-mortem while the animal is still alive is absolutely something that we could look at and join up with. I see like we're doing carcass inspection, but I see that as just one piece of the bigger puzzle, right? There's carcass, there's offal, which will be hard because they palpate it, they squeeze it to feel it, and you got to turn it. There's ante-mortem, there's a number of different pieces of the puzzle that hook in together, I think, to the final solution. This is just the starting point.
In manufacturing, the difference between quality assurance and quality control.
Yeah.
So effectively what you're doing at the moment is quality control, and what you're talking about is quality assurance.
Yeah, and
quality control is about testing at the end, whereas assurance is creating conditions to prevent them in the first place. So it lines up with your name and everything.
oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
You were mentioning jobs to be done.
Yeah.
Is that a framework you use?
Well,
Do you do research?
That's the one I always use, and I don't know, it seemed like it worked pretty well. So I just followed. I've got all those strategizer books on my bookshelf. The first one's the value proposition design book, which talks about identifying people's jobs to be done and then their pain points and opportunities to make gains, to design value propositions to test. And then the next book is called Testing Business Ideas, where you then take your value propositions to customers and get feedback. So I just followed the textbook process and found 3 things that seemed to resonate, and it worked. Doesn't seem like rocket science, but I don't know. There's so many products that seem to just build the wrong solutions still. But we haven't really invested very much in building anything yet. But we're pretty confident that we've nailed down what we need to do and how to go about it. Yeah, for that on farm animal data stuff. Eventually, yeah, and there's places doing stuff in milking sheds, and I don't know whether there's the same tech on beef as there is for dairy, but there's definitely opportunities to do stuff with data, even the data that's already there about. Like we collect a lot of data, and we could be using it more efficiently than we are. Yeah.
Is there scope to go more use it for grading as well as quality?
Yeah, so there is a company that's already using cameras for grading, but we don't have to invent the tech, right? We can integrate that into what we're doing. Yeah. Great.
Are the animals already dead when they come on site? Or
No,
no, so there's data that could be collected
in the yards, and an anti-mortem inspection while the animal's still alive is part of the requirements. When the animal arrives at the yard, a vet has to check that it's fit for slaughter. Yeah. But yeah, there's heaps of other use cases as well for even just counting the stock is something that a human currently does.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of other industries and products, has there been any other industries or production lines where quality control has been used that you've been able to learn from?
Well, I've been doing this stuff in automotive manufacturing for a long time, the actual application of using a camera and computer vision to
Traffic management. Which is effectively a production line.
The actual tech solution itself's not novel, but I guess the application to this use case is new.
So, what are you anticipating the UX is going to look like on this thing? Is this going to be a panel in every factory at each workstation, or is this going to be?
Yeah, good question. So again, every meat processing plant is different. So the first time I went and had a good look at where I thought it could go on a detain area, it was quite a small detain. It had 9 stations, and predominantly the detain worker was working at station number 1. But then there are the second meat plant I went and had a look at had 27 detain stations, and the worker starts working on the carcass at station 27, and by the time it gets to station 1 they've already finished. So the real challenge in the UX design is going to be in making something that works at a wide variation of different contexts, and that's what we're just starting to understand now. Our service design has been to 2 plants, a small one and a big one. Big one today, and he's got one more to go to next week to sort of try and see a cross section of how it's different. But I think that's going to be the real challenge. I had imagined a big screen. I'd love to see augmented reality, but I just think in the hostile environment of a meat plant, I just don't think the technology's quite resilient enough yet. But it'll get there. But I think a big screen TV is the most obvious solution, but I'm not a UX designer.
How hands-on is the inspector? Do they have to kind of physically separate themselves from every carcass to keep clean? Or
Absolutely. So cleanliness is massive, and cross-contamination is, like I said, that's where the actual stuff that can kill you can happen, is with the microbiology of touching and sterilising between each carcass.
So if they were wearing tech, they would be probably not going to get it as dirty as someone else who might be.
Yeah, wearable. I think I've seen a similar product have a crack at that and the processing couldn't keep up with the moving camera. That's why we started with stationary, but it'll get there, I'm sure. the tech's moving pretty fast.
Would there be any actual user interaction with the user interface, or is it more just information?
I don't think so, but I don't know yet.
Interaction becomes pretty tricky.
Well, I've seen people at meat plants using their knife tips on touch screens, and worse. So I was just imagining a big screen TV that maybe stations 1, 2, 3 fits on one screen. Maybe we need more than one screen, and maybe to use the tech, you've got to be on the first 3 stations. Was what we were thinking for a starting point. But yeah, keen to see what that ends up looking like exactly.
It'd be pretty cool to see it in action. Like when you get there.
Well, everyone wants to. I just went to Australia last week to the meat inspectors conference over there, and everyone wants to come over and see it. I'm like, there's not actually much to see at the moment. It's just it's like a security camera that you see anywhere in a meat plant.
That's all kind of sim for you.
Yeah. Yeah. But once we get that screen in there, then there'll be something to come and see.
Just about does it. Thanks very much.
Cool. Thanks very much, everyone.